So to set the scene, I wanted to talk a little bit about how the social web has changed the tourism industry. I mean, this was a cover story in The Economist earlier this year where it was saying that now the most valuable resource in the world, it used to be oil and it's now data. And whereas the oil resources are depleting, data is getting bigger and bigger. And so for tourism brands especially, it's essential because actually travelers leave a digital footprint wherever they go. So the behavior of travelers is changing. It's changing the way they decide where they're going to go. They're changing how they book their holidays, what their expectations are, what loyalty means, and how they want to interact with these brands. And so the tourism brands, they must change too. They have to adapt to the new ways that the guests want to interact with them, and they have to develop new processes, KPIs, and use the tools and technologies that are available to them, and stop analysing all their data in individual silos. It's all about making it work together, and then make their decisions based on data-driven reasoning rather than gut feeling. The reality today is that reputation is made or broken online. I think in the past, the hotels were waiting with bated breath to see the 100 top hotels list being printed by Condé Nast or the top destinations. And the reality today is that your reputation depends on what the customers write about you on Booking.com, on TripAdvisor, on Holiday Check. And what we have here is a global review index. And this is the industry standard reputation score, which was developed by ReviewPro, working with leading hoteliers, working with professors from the hospitality schools. And it analyzes it's an algorithm, a complex algorithm, based on 175 sources, different sources, over in 45 languages. And this allows the hotels to monitor their reputation over time. So I pulled some data yesterday for the hotels in Mallorca. So almost 1,000 hotels. And in 2017 to date, there's been over 400,000 reviews written online. And as you can see, which correlates with the data we've just seen, the 5-star hotels tend to have higher guest satisfaction with 91, the 4-star hotels almost 87, and the 3-star hotels 82%. But what I'd like to say here is that we work with hotels who are 3 stars, and they have managed to achieve their reputation score of 95. We work with hostels, such as Generator Hostels, they exceed their guests' expectations all the time, and so it doesn't matter about whether you're luxury or whether you're budget. It's all about creating that guest-centric culture and throughout the organization and getting everybody focused on the guest. Why does it matter? Well, because it impacts your revenue. So this was a study we completed with Cornell University, and what we saw was that if you improved your global review index, so your reputation index, by 1 percentage point, this led to, on average, almost a 1% increase in your average daily rate, and also helped improve your occupancy and RevPAR. And I just put this in because it was interesting. I read it recently. It was the CEO of Uber, who was formerly the CEO of Expedia, and so he knows a lot about reputation. Whenever he was commenting on London, and whenever they lost their license to be active there, he said there's a high cost to a bad reputation. And that's the reality that we're living in today. Okay, so why is exceeding traveler expectations crucial? When I studied marketing, so far too many years ago, it was all about the 4 Ps: product, promotion, price, and place. But today that's evolved into the 4 Es, and this is specifically true for the hospitality industry. Whereas when we heard today from Melia, it's all about the experience. And when we think about tourism, this can be from the hotels, the transportation, how they arrive there, the restaurants, the attractions, the theme parks, everything they do. And so we work with a lot of destinations around the world to help them understand their visitor satisfaction, to understand their strengths, so that then they can use this in their communication when they're promoting their destination and marketing campaigns. And then also to, above all, understand their weaknesses and to understand where they need to help provide training for the different operators within their destination so that they can improve and compete better with other destinations. So we provide them with competitive destinations. For example, we work with Sete in Greece. So they analyze their guest satisfaction and their visitor satisfaction in Greece, and then they can see how this compares to Ibiza, how this compares to Mallorca, etc. And so today the battle is really won or lost depending on whether you exceed these traveller expectations. So the winners, the people that are doing it good, what are they doing that's different? Because they leverage all this big data. So we help them to gather all the guest feedback, and this can be what we call guest intelligence, but it can be from online reviews, from surveys, it can be feedback they get by telephone, it can be live requests when the guest is on property, messaging, and the idea is you take all this information, and then based on that you get valuable insights. You understand where the problems are, and then where you have to make operational service improvements. And by doing this effectively, obviously there's lots of benefits. Better traveller experiences, which leads to higher online rankings, and then increased revenue. So what are these hotels doing? They're prioritising action using impact analysis. So this is based on machine learning, and we look at what are the factors that are having the biggest impact on overall satisfaction, and then how you're performing against those. So for example, to prioritize, these are areas where you see that this is really impacting your guest satisfaction and you're underperforming compared to your average score, your competitors. And then amplify, these are things that you're doing really well, but it's also having a really big impact on guest satisfaction, so you should be promoting these and you should be doing even more in this area. We do what we call semantic analysis. And this is really getting down to the details, so going beyond the scores of what somebody would give in TripAdvisor or a score that somebody would give in a guest survey. This is analysing the text, and so based on that we come up with concepts. So in this example, for example, the concept is staff, and then based on the words that are used around it, this lets us know whether it's positive or negative sentiment. And then we have over 450 hospitality concepts, which are organised into 26 categories. And then this allows the hotels, so for example, this allows them to see where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are, but really get down to the detail and understand what they have to do. This is an example because we actually worked earlier this year with Saviok, and we created a new concept which we didn't have in our semantic analysis before, which was robot. And so we added this into the tool so that they could monitor the impact on guest satisfaction. And then we set up a keyword alert for them so that they could, anytime somebody mentioned robot, they would get an alert and they could see what guests were writing about it online or in response to surveys. And it was very interesting, and yeah, I can tell you that it does improve guest satisfaction. Here's just a quick example of sentiment analysis in Mallorca. So you can see in Mallorca, so of all these over 400,000 reviews written this year, the most positive things were about the staff, the ambiance, the location, and the areas where, in general, the hotels in Mallorca were underperforming were internet, bathroom, and room. And then you can see, for example, within the room category, you can drill down in the detail. What is it within the room that was causing the problems? Well, here there's a big issue with noise. Air conditioning also was causing problems. Tables for some reason. And then what you can do is you click through here, and then you can actually get into the detail and read the comments to understand what the exact problem was. As mentioned, obviously guest satisfaction depends by nationality. So in Mallorca, you can see the highest volume of reviews are written by German guests, which probably is no surprise, followed by the UK. And then, but it's important for you to look at these statistics and then go into the detail to understand why, for example, in Switzerland is the level of satisfaction less, and you can drill down to understand the detail. One other thing is by review sources. Today I speak to hoteliers and restaurants, and they're all obsessed with TripAdvisor. The reality today, if you look at Mallorca, Booking.com has almost twice as many reviews compared to TripAdvisor, and Google, which in maybe 2 years ago hardly had any reviews, has now, and in Mallorca this year, there's more reviews written on Google than there are on TripAdvisor. So these are things that people should be aware of and realize that it's not just enough to look at what's going on in TripAdvisor. You have to be able to follow your performance against all these different sources. What's really important with big data is to turn it into valuable insights. So what we help our clients to do is that we help them just to send the information that's relevant to them. So for example, if you're a housekeeping manager, you don't receive all the information about everything to do with the hotel. You only receive alerts and reviews whenever it's related to room, whenever it's related to cleanliness, or whenever it's something that's really specific to what you're doing. So this is what technology allows you to do today. It's like to take all that huge amount of data and to simplify it down into actions that are relevant for the users. What's really important as well is that sometimes too much data kills the data, and people can have all this data, but they don't know what to do with it. So what's really important is that within the organization, you explain to the teams how important it is to follow up on this data, how to follow up on this feedback. This can be done obviously manually with emails and doing monthly reports and things like this. But what we've seen is that if you can automate this, like we do with case management, where you create cases automatically. So, for example, in the previous example, you could have a review that talks about cleanliness issues, the room being dirty. Well, okay, this automatically creates a case, and it's sent to the housekeeping manager, who knows that he has to deal with this situation in the shortest space of time. One other thing is we talked about how guests and customers want to communicate, and you've now got to adapt to the way that they are communicating. So maybe they don't want to pick up the phone, maybe they don't want to walk to reception, and today people are using WeChat, they're using Facebook Messenger, and there's ways that you can manage all these different channels coming in together in the one hub. So here's a few examples of some brands and things that they're doing today to leverage big data. This is hotels we work with. They're luxury hotels in London, and they use our online reputation tool combined with our guest surveys tool. And what's interesting is with data as well, it's really important to share the data across the different systems you're using. So we import data from their PMS system, we share data with their CRM system, and it's all linked together, and this is when the data becomes really valuable. So for example, they import the information from their PMS system, so we know by room number we know which room the guest stayed in based on the information we get. And so whenever they send out their surveys, they analyze the results on a room number level. So this is really critical because they know exactly where the issue is and which room is the problem. And it also helps them to do testing. So for example, they wanted to introduce new mattresses. So they introduced new mattresses, and I can't remember, I think it was 10 bedrooms. And then they watched the guest satisfaction with these bedrooms over time, and to see if by introducing these new mattresses, were the guests happy with these new mattresses? Did it improve guest satisfaction? And then justify the cost and the investment of rolling out these mattresses across all the rooms that they have. And this is what they did, and then they made the decision to roll out the mattresses across the whole organization. This is Ilunion Hotels, one of the groups we work with here in Spain. And instead of sending out a typical survey after the guest has left, or sending it when they're on property by email, what they did is that whenever the guest connects to the Wi-Fi for the first time, there's a simple pop-up that you can see here, and it asks them to let them know how their stay has been so far. And then if the number is, if the guest gives them less than 5, this opens a second question, and it asks them what the problem was. And this is really powerful because it lets them implement service recovery. It lets them sort out the problem before the guest leaves the property, which also means that this reduces your negative reviews. Because if you don't capture the problem before the guest leaves, it's too late. They've written the review on TripAdvisor, they've written a review on Booking.com, and you can't change that, you can't take that off. So what's really important with the in-stays surveys, whether you send them out before by email or by pop-up or on a tablet at the reception, whichever you want, this is really valuable for making things better before they check out. Residor is another chain that we work with, and it's really important with online reviews and with guest surveys, but specifically with online reviews because it's visible, and is to respond to what your guest has said. And some hotels are obsessed with trying to respond to 100% of their reviews. This is impossible, you're just going to create problems. What we always say is respond to the most important reviews, the most critical reviews, as quickly as possible. So focus on speed rather than volume. So what we worked with them is that they wanted to make sure they responded to all their negative reviews. Because if somebody reads a negative review, but then they see that the hotel has taken the time to respond and to try and find a solution and shows care, this helps to compensate for the negative review that's been written. And so they set an objective that all general managers have to respond to negative reviews within 48 hours. And if they're not responded to within 48 hours, this is escalated to the customer care center to do it. And they set up these rules for 7 of the key OTAs in 8 languages. And then they used our auto case system to manage all this. So the minute the review came in that was negative, this automatically created a case and they received an alert. The person had to follow up. So after just 3 months, their response ratio increased from 82% to 92% for negative reviews. And their response time, the average response time, dropped from 6.3 days to 3 days. So this is a really powerful tool for helping them improve their efficiencies, for helping them prioritize where they should be responding, and making sure their teams are concentrating on where it's going to improve their online reputation most. This is an example of the area hotel in Budapest, which is part of the library hotel collection we've been working with for many years. And I like this slide because it just illustrates the power of your online reputation. So on the 1st of January this year, the area hotel in Budapest was announced as the #1 hotel in the world on TripAdvisor. And what this graph here is showing is the traffic that they got to their TripAdvisor page throughout the months, which you can see was around 15,000 visits per month. And in January, there's this huge, absolutely huge jump of more than 5 times traffic. And the only thing that changed between the December and the January was that their hotel was named as the #1 ranked hotel on TripAdvisor. I was speaking with their VP of marketing. Their direct bookings more than doubled, their occupancy increased, their ADR significantly increased. So anybody that thinks that online reputation can impact your revenue or the performance of your hotel, I think this is a perfect illustration showing that it's not the case. It really does matter. Okay, the future of guest experience, because I think this is what we're all here to talk about today. Some of the things you've seen over the past couple of days, there's lots of opportunities for tourism brands in the whole self-service technology area, the chatbots that we mentioned with Melia this morning, the service robots that we've had, the voice-activated assistants and speakers. And I'm not going to go into these in detail. You've already been talking about them for 2 days. And we're seeing the hotels it's slow to adopt because of the cost, because of the difficulties that we've discussed, and it's probably bigger brands like Hilton that are really moving forward in this area. Our view on it is that yes, it's something that it's essential. It's the way the future is going. It has to be managed. But for us, it's all about getting the right balance, and this is, we understand, for us, it's all about measuring the satisfaction. It's not just saying, okay, this is a new technology that's available, and so we have to implement it. The importance is no matter what you do, no matter what direction you take, make sure that the decisions you take are based on the analysis you do and getting the feedback from your guests and understanding, do they really want robots? Whereas in the presentation, this morning, where we saw it was like complementary to the humans and to the staff that were working there. In this example, it's very extreme, where they actually replaced their staff with robots. And as far as I know today, you can't really replace the human touch, which is what hospitality is all about. So for me, it's all about getting the right balance and combining all the opportunities and all the benefits and all the fantastic things that the technology and offers you, but making sure that you maintain that warmth that everyone loves in hospitality. So just quickly about Review Pro. So we work with over 30,000 clients, so hotels and restaurants, a lot of destinations as well, and all over the world. And this is what we help them to do. We help them to improve their guest satisfaction with the guest intelligence, with online reputations, with surveys, with the case management to make sure they follow up on it, and with the messaging to help them engage with guests. Thank you.